Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head back to Japan for the first time in a little while actually, and we're going to return to a brewery who I've only ever reviewed one other beer from, but I remember it being really quite nice and I'm very curious to try this one on the basis of that. So for this one we are going to return to Shimane Prefecture, which is quite close to Hiroshima. And we're going to have a taste of my second beer from the Shimane Beer Company and their Beer Hearn range. So this one's a collaboration that they've done with Tamazakura Shuzo, or Tamazakura Sake Brewery if you want to put it into English. The beer is called Orochi Tamazakura and it comes in at 9% ABV. And the only real way to kind of describe this beer, I guess, in terms of a style is a sake rice beer. So really not sure what to expect from this one. This was yet another beer that I picked up at liquor shop Asahiya in Taishibashi Emaichi in Osaka. Thank you to Koji for pointing me in the direction of this one. He always introduces me to some really nice Japanese beers, so very curious to see what this one turns out as. Koji's never pointed me in the direction of a bad beer, and he said that this one was kind of unusual and that I should have a try of it. So yeah, really looking forward to this one, very curious about it, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer. I always enjoy reviewing these Japanese beers for you because it is something a little bit more unusual, and you will see these fairly regularly of course because of my family connections to Japan. So for this one, as is usual, I will tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Shimane Beer Company before and their Beer Hair range. And no doubt I will add some more at some point when I get back to Japan. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Japanese beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to whenever I get the opportunity, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then to tell you a little bit about the Shimane Beer Company. So Shimane Beer Company were founded back in 1996 and they're based in Matsue City in Shimane Prefecture, which like I said is quite close to Hiroshima. But the brewery itself is close to Izumo, which is home to the Izumo Taisha Shinto Shrine, which is one of the most important ones in Japan. But the brewery is a very small operation and they only have 3 employees, but still they manage to produce a year-round beer range as well as some limited edition beers such as this one. But all of the beers, or all of the regular beers I guess we should say, have an image of Patrick Lefkadio Hearn, who is known by the Japanese as Koizumi Yakumo, and he was a Greek author known for his books about Japanese legends and also ghost stories as well. But he lived in Matsue and taught English for a number of years beginning from 1890, so quite a famous local figure actually. There wasn't too many foreigners in Japan at that point. But the president of the company is Yano Manobu, who studied engineering at university before working for a large sake brewery. He wanted to become a brewmaster but he never had the opportunity, and he'd worked mainly on the maintenance side of things at the brewery that he was working at. But in 1996 he read about a local effort to start up a beer brewery, so he left and went to work with them, and he was sent to Hiroshima to study brewing, and the company eventually launched in 1999 with Yano acting as production manager and 3 other brewers under him. But the brewery struggled initially, and in 2002 Yano transferred to a partner sake company before returning to the brewery in 2004. But the brewery still struggles, but after attending beer festivals in Osaka and Yokohama they became more well known and business really began to pick up for them. But Yano became president of the company in 2011, and in 2012 they recruited Oishi Yasufumi as their head brewer, who is still in place today and still creating some interesting beers. But that's all you really need to know about the brewery just now. Their beers are pretty good. The last one I reviewed from them was the Yuzu Fresh, which was a really kind of unusual but very nice beer actually. I'll put the link to my other review in the description below, but I was very impressed with the last beer that I had from them, and they're always doing some interesting things like these collaborations with sake breweries as well. So yeah, if you get the chance to try some of these beers, I recommend that you do. There's always some interesting craft beers going on in Japan, and the really interesting thing about the craft breweries over there is that a lot of them are sake brewers who are now having a go at brewing beers, which is interesting. So they take some of the techniques from sake brewing into craft beer brewing, so that means that you always get some really nice and very clean craft beers over there. So yeah, have a go at them if you do get the chance. There's some really good Japanese craft beers these days. So yeah, that's all you really need to know about the brewery for the moment. If you want to learn a little bit more, of course, you can check out the brewery website in the description below, and there's all the other links in there too that you can check out. But let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself then. So as I mentioned to you at the start of the video, this one is basically a 9% sake rice beer. It's a collaboration with Tamazakura Sake Brewery, which you'll find in Haramura, in the kind of southeastern part of Shimane. The rice that they use in this one is milled to 70% of the original grain size, and it uses a yeast intended for Ginjo Seishu Sake, and the beer is also aged for 6 months as well. Basically with sake, they use rice, and the fermentation process is actually very similar to beer, and what they do is they mill the rice grain down, so you get junmai, which is pure rice. You get ginjo, where the rice is taken down to about 60% of the original size, and dai ginjo, which is where it's taken down to around 50% of the original size. And you get different, you get seishu sake as well, which is the most clear. You get honjozo, which is the one where they add distilled alcohol to it. You also get Negorishu, I should say rather, which is the one that is unfiltered. So there's a whole host of different things, and usually you have to put the different pieces of the jigsaw together to get exactly what kind of a sake it is. So you may well have like a Junmai Ginjo Seishu sake or something like this. It's kind of interesting, but it's really beautiful. If you get the chance to try some Japanese sakes, I highly recommend that you do. But yeah, let's get rid of the brewery notes now, and we'll just have a taste of this beer and see how we get on. So yeah, like I say, 9% sake rice beer. This one, they've used a yeast in here that was intended for a Ginjo Seishu sake. So Ginjo means that it is the rice grain is normally taken down to somewhere between 70 and 60% of the original size. The more expensive sakes, of course, tend to be dai ginjo, which means the rice grain is milled down even more, and it's even cleaner in its mouthfeel, if you like, and it's even cleaner in its flavour. But yeah, so this one should be very interesting, and I'm guessing it's been aged in sake barrels for 6 months. It did say aged for 6 months. There you can see the Hearn guy on the top of the bottle cap of this one. He's usually on the labels of all of the regular Shimane Beer Company beers. So yeah, let's get this one out and we'll get on with the tasting then. I'm really curious to see how this beer turns out. And they do release this beer every year from what I gather. You just get different vintages of it. You can see a little bit of carbonation just making its way out. But we'll get this guy out and into the glass. This one I think will be really nice. Well, you can see a little bit of the sedimentation there. That's definitely some of the sake's done. Oh, that does smell really nice actually. So yeah, really interesting this one. So as you can see, this beer has poured a really bright yellow colour. If we're comparing it to IPAs and things like that, this beer, it's poured along the lines of an almost New England type IPA. It is actually pretty hazy. If I put my fingers behind the glass, there you can see just how bright this one is. You know, you've got about a half finger of a frothy white head on this one. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of that head there. But you know, overall, it does look pretty nice. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly how this one's going to turn out. I thought, I thought it might have been a sort of clear golden colour, this one. So yeah, we'll see how we get on. So yeah, interesting colour, this one, almost like a kind of New England type IPA, just not quite as hazy as you're going to get from some of them. So let's take a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on with this beer. Oh, it's interesting. It almost smells a little bit like a Belgian ale, to be honest with you. It does have a little bit of that doughy, yeasty, bready, and almost banana type thing. So that's kind of interesting. I wasn't expecting that. But at the same time, you can smell that lovely, just that lovely sake character to it. You know, the sake rice, they can be so different actually, but it's a lot, the sort of flavour and aroma scope that you get from sake is a lot less diverse, if you like, than beer. So it's a lot more of a kind of narrow kind of flavour gauge and things that you can get from these, because some of them can be a little bit floral, some of them can be a little bit more grassy, some of them can be a little bit more fruity. So the sake rice in this one, for me, It does have a little bit of sweetness to it. There is a little bit of a fruity character. It's almost a little bit like apricot-y or something like that, apricot-y or mango. Something like that coming out of this one. So definitely a little bit of sweetness to the sake rice in there. There's a little touch of a floral note, I think, as well. Yeah. It's interesting. You know, it's kind of the same idea as coffee beans. You know, coffee beans can give you some really fairly diverse aromas, but it's on, you know, it's on a lot smaller scope, if you like, on a lot of a much smaller spectrum. That's the word I was looking for. It's on a much smaller spectrum to what you can normally get from you know, the whole different range of craft beer styles. So for me, this one, the sake rice part of this beer, is quite sweet. It's a little bit fruity with the sort of mango-y, apricot-y kind of notes in there, and you've also got a little bit of a nice floral character as well. There is a little bit of a grassy kind of floral thing going on from the hops in this one too. I do wonder how much hop they would have actually added to this, but there is a nice kind of citrusy, grassy part to this one, so you do have a little bit of a green hoppy element coming out of this beer too. But the yeasty side of the beer and the malty side of the beer, it does have a little bit of an almost Belgian type quality to it, which I wasn't expecting. So yeah, some doughy bready yeasts, a little bit of a kind of wheaty note as well. So yeah, it smells really interesting, this one. I've not smelt a beer quite like that before, so it's almost a little bit Belgian yeasty. It's got a little bit of a sake presence to it as well, but it also has a little bit of a fairly kind of fresh hoppy note as well, which is quite interesting. So yeah, as I always say, you know, take a little look at the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it, because it will always throw up something interesting. But let's have a taste of this beer then and just see what we get on. So this one is the Orochi Tamazakura 2018 version, a collaboration between Shimane Beer Company's Hearn beer range and Tamazakura Shuzo in Shimane Prefecture in Japan. Once again, thank you to Koji at Liquor Shop Asahiya for the recommendation. Check out the link to his Facebook page in the description below. But let's get stuck in. A 9% sake rice beer, this one, using a Ginjo Seishu sake yeast, aged for 6 months. Let's get stuck in. Slanja, Skål, Kampai. Ooh. Now that's pretty nice, I have to say. It's not quite as Belgian-y and yeasty as I was expecting, I have to admit. You do get a nice little bit of alcohol warmth out of it. But the one thing you're going to always notice about Japanese craft beers, as I was kind of hinting at earlier, they're always very clean, and it doesn't matter what type of Japanese craft beer it is that you're going to get, whether it's a stout, an IPA, something like this that's a sake rice beer. You know, they always just have this element of drinkability to them. To the Japanese, beer is something that you use, that it should be very clean, it should be very drinkable, and this transfers into the craft beers as well. I've always found the Japanese craft beers, though, to have this little bit of an oily character to them that brings out the sweetness, and it really gives you a good blend between the sweetness and the fruity side of the beer, and that's something I think transfers in from the fact that a lot of the brewers are sake brewers originally. And you detect all of that in this beer. It really is very nice, this. I like how everything's going together in this one. I mean, by no means is this a beer that's going to blow the head off you in terms of, you know, maltiness or anything like that, or you know, hoppiness, IBUs and things. This is one of these beers where it's all about kind of appreciating the subtleties, should we say. If you're a fan of sake, you will like this one. If you like, you know, the Japanese lagers and things like that, again, you are going to enjoy this one. If you like, you know, if you like a nice Munich Helles, a nice German Munich Helles, this is another beer that's going to tick some boxes for you. This one's not really comparable or comparable to anything else. It really is just a very unique beer, this. So if you get the chance to try one of these, have a go at them, because it's, you know, it is really quite nice. Yeah. I like this one. Thumbs up to Shimane Beer Company for this. I hope I can try a few more of this, because I'm sure I've seen other versions of this before. But yeah, this is good. And I do like it how they've actually modelled the label almost like a sake label as well for that, I should say that. But yeah, so let's try and break this one down a little bit then. So in the middle of your palate, you can feel a nice little bit of an almost pale malty, white bready, almost slightly wheaty quality in the middle of the palate. As you move further into the aftertaste, you start to lean more towards the sake rice flavours. And again, it's quite... the sake rice that's coming out of this one does have a good degree of sweetness to it. In my mind, it's also got a little touch of earthiness, which I wasn't noticing in the aroma. There is a little touch, just a little touch of earthiness to the sake rice in this one too. It just has that slightly darker flavour to it. But the sweeter side of the sake rice is more towards the front of the palate. But really, you do, as I say, you get that nice smooth white bready wheaty base, and then you've got the nice kind of smooth ricey qualities of the beer just on top of that. Yeah, and initially when you take this beer in, it's very sweet towards the front of the palate, and you can get those nice sort of apricot-y, I don't know if it's not quite mango, in the flavour it's not quite mango. You've got this nice almost apricot-y, maybe slightly peary flavour coming out of this one too. If you just move towards the front of the palate, you get that nice apricot-y, peary type ester pushing its way out of this one, which is really nice. I really like how everything goes together in this one. But I really love sake as well, so it's not really a surprise to me that I like this beer. So yeah, the way that whole malt base in the centre of your palate goes together in this one is really very nice. The hoppy side of the things is kind of what you'd expect. In the back corners of the palate, you've got a little touch of earthiness. As you come further forward, that spreads out a little bit. You can pick up a little touch of a floral, grassy note there, but again, it's quite minimal. And round the very front curve of the palate, you've got a nice lighter, grassy side of things. But the hoppy side of the beer is very, very smooth, and it's all, you know, it's to play in with the whole theme of it being a sake rice beer. Yeah, that is nice, that. Behind the front curve of the palate, of course, that's where you get that nice oily bubble, where the juicy, fruity esters are coming out of the hops. And for me, it's very much a kind of straight up sort of grassy, that sort of slightly grassy, slightly lemony ester that's coming out of this one. So you do get a little bit of freshness on the front of the palate, but it's really interesting with this beer just to feel how everything's interacting. This beer, I was picking up a sort of Belgian-y quality to this one in the aroma. That's not really present in the beer at all, I don't think. This must just be a kind of thing that's coming out in the aroma itself, because there's no real Belgian yeasty presence to this one. You do get a little touch of a sort of banana kind of thing in the flavour of the beer, in fairness, but it's quite minimal. To me, it really leans more towards the apricot-y, and it's almost papaya-y, mango-y type flavours, and it's really interesting just how the slightly fruity flavours that you get from the sake rice are interacting with the grassy, citrusy side of the hops. So it's really interesting. I would wonder if they would have used Soriachi Ace in this one. You do still get a small amount of Japanese grown Soriachi Ace. And I would wonder, just with the way the citrusy notes are coming out in this, if that's what they've used in here, because it's quite unlike the other hops that are popular in Japan, usually the German noble hops. So it could be something like that, but I would wonder if they have used a little bit of Soriachi Ace in here, which would be a nice touch, I have to say. But yeah, the way all the flavours in this beer go together is really nice, and it's definitely a beer that really fully embodies the whole thing about sake being very subtle, and there being great subtleties between the different sakes. This is really nice, but very, very unique, and something you really just need to try for yourself. So yeah, have a go at this beer for yourself and just see what you think. I say that all the time in my reviews, but this one in particular is one of the ones that really you do have to have a go at for yourself. So yeah, with this beer then, I would say, with the mouthfeel, quite a full-bodied beer, this one. The carbonation is pretty much non-existent in this. It's a big, oily, very smooth mouthfeel that you're going to get out of this one, and the oily qualities help bring out the sweet and the fruity side of the beer. At the same time though, you can't help but notice just how clean this beer is. It really is lovely in that regard, and as I say, this goes back to the whole thing about the Japanese regarding beer should be very clean and it should be very drinkable, and at 9% this beer is ridiculously easy to drink, and you can say the same for the Japanese sakes as well. The malt base is very, very smooth in this one. I don't know if you can count the sake rice as the malt base in this one as well, in fairness, but the way that the malt base and the sake rice go together is just lovely. It's very smooth and also very sweet actually, but there is a little touch of earthiness, I think, to the sake rice too, which is interesting. You get some kind of floral notes out of it towards the front of the tongue too, and the fruity notes as well. So yeah, the way that the whole middle of your palate is going on in this beer is really interesting. A little touch of hoppy bitterness in there. I think this one, you know, if there was any bitterness at all, you know, you're talking like 20 IBUs, very, very minimal, and some nice, slightly juicy, fruity qualities to the beer as well. But overall, a really, really interesting one, very, very unique, and not really comparable to anything else that I've ever reviewed. And that's what you want on the channel after about 1700 reviews. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one is the Orochi, a collaboration beer at 9% ABV between Shimane Beer Company and their Hearn beer range, and Tamazakura Shuzo, both from Shimane Prefecture in Japan. A really lovely beer, this one, very unusual. Probably not one of my best described reviews, if you like, but something that is just very unique and that you have to have a go at for yourself. If you get the chance to try some of the Japanese sakes, do, because they're really beautiful within their own right. In Japanese sake, it's even more hands-on in its brewing process than craft beer is, so that's another experience in itself. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. A lovely beer this, and I highly recommend that you check it out for yourself if you get the chance. It's released every year from what I gather. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Shimane Beer and their Hearn beer range. Hopefully I can review one of the sakes from Tamazakura Shuzo at some point. I have reviewed one that has a very similar name to that, if memory serves me correctly, but hopefully I can try one of their sakes at some point and review that for you on the channel. I always enjoy reviewing my sakes when I get to Japan as well. But thank you again for watching. Make sure you check out Liquor Shop Asahiya in Tashibashi, Maichi, Osaka, and go to Japan. You won't regret that at all. Thank you again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. This is the Orochi 2018 from Shimane Beer Company's Hearn beer range in collaboration with Tamazakura Shuzo from Shimane Prefecture in Japan. Until the next time, Slanja just now, and I'll catch you guys very soon. Slanja, Skull, Kampai.